everybody. So if you might have seen in the last video, there was a heck of a lot of blow-by coming out of this 2F motor, the truck I just bought. So that unfortunately means that we have to rebuild the motor. So I'm going to be going ahead and taking everything off of it today. My buddy Evan at Classic Motors has said that we can bring the motor there and go through the entire process through his machine shop of fixing the entire motor from beginning to end. So that's my hope in the next couple videos, is taking you through that entire process of rebuilding this 2F, because overall this truck, it's great. It just needs new rings. So that's the consensus. So one thing I'd like to point out before we start ripping into this motor is that it was fully desmogged. My blue truck does not have a full desmog that kept the hack in place. The hack does not exist on here, and because of that, I went ahead, before I started pulling anything, I'm starting to label things. Just so when it goes back together, I know exactly where things are going. As you can see, the whole spaghetti mess of that's usually in a 2F is completely gone, making it a million times easier to take this all apart. But that's what we're doing right now. We're gonna go ahead and label everything, and then we're gonna start pulling things off. So all the carburetor bolts are 12s. There's 4 of them. The ones in the back here can be a huge pain to get out. For future reference, when you go to put the car back on, don't snug them down too bad, especially the ones in the back. It'll work just the same, but trust me, you'll understand the pain. Just get one of these monkey wrenches, 12s, and they'll come right out. So the gas line is a 17 wrench. Sometimes it can be stuck. Carburetor, when they come off, so does the plate for the actual accelerator pedal. So all this mechanical linkage back here will come off. There is going to be a pin right here that needs to be pulled on that ball, and then once that's pulled, it should all just come away after these springs, and the rest of the linkage back here should just come right off. Out comes the carb heat shield. We're gonna start removing some of the accessories. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the Smog pump delete pulley first. Most of these accessories are 3-step processes. So you gotta loosen this bolt here, loosen the bolt here, and then as well as the bottom guys down here. So then you can push it aside. And then as you can see, the belt does come off and loose. So we're gonna let it hang there for a minute. Again, the alternator, working on that in order to get the power steering pump loose, as well as the alternator. It's a 3-step process. So one tensioner bolt at the front, one on the side, and then the ones on the bottom that actually hold the pump in. You loosen all those, everything should fall forward. Right now I'm using a 12 wrench. Most of them are 12 wrenches or 14 that holds them on. So pretty straightforward. So after I loosened the belt from the alternator that runs over to the power steering pump, took it off, and now I'm gonna be unbolting all the bolts that actually bolt to the head. These are 14s. There's 3 of them, and one of them's really tight in there. So as you can see, after these 3 bolts on the block come out, the alternator will move. And I went ahead and disconnected it from the AC pump down here, compressor. Just 1 bolt in, which you can see right here, and then she comes free. Before you yank the alternator completely free, there's one 10mm bolt here that comes right off, as well as a electric clip here. Very easy to just snap off and put to the side. And with the power steering pump, there are 3 bolts here, as well as one that is hiding right here next to the water pump. I don't know if you can see my finger right there. And once those 4 bolts come out, it all should fall free. All right, motor mount bolt number 1, which is a 17. I'm not gonna take it off the block. I'm gonna keep just the mount disconnected with that one washer there. Taking the radiator shroud off. It's pretty straightforward. It's 3 bolts on that side and then 3 on this side. Have to remove the dryer right here for the AC. Again, those are connected right here and one down here, and that should all come free. And then we'll have to get the fan off. All right, we're gonna go ahead and remove the clutch fan here. There's only 4 bolts in it. Those are all 10 millimeters and they come right out. I went ahead and pulled the AC pump, which is just 2 bolts right here, which is on the actual motor mount. So those are really easy. There's no tensioner on that guy. Those bolts are technically the tensioner. So that bolt right there is gonna have to be loosened. That is our motor mount bolt. Once that's loosened, motor will be free. So this is one of the first of 2 grounds that I'm removing. This one came from the passenger side motor mount, which is actually the one that grounds off to the side of the fender. I'm in process right now of removing this back one back here, which is just one 14 millimeter bolt. And then it rolls back up here to the firewall. I'm gonna leave it connected to the firewall, but we'll get it all labeled up. All right, we unbolted these 12s for the radiator support here. And there it comes off. We're just gonna have to disconnect the hood release, which is fairly easy. It's just a little hook under here, and then it should pop out and pull it away. Go ahead and take the exhaust manifold and intake manifold off. It is mainly 2 14s. I believe there's one here and one back there. And then the rest of these other ones are gonna be 17s. There's a couple hiding under the actual intake manifold. It's weird, this manifold is super loose. The bolts are super loose, but as you can tell, it looks like it had been changed recently. I do know the head was done, which I think it was ultimately the reason why the rings started to go bad. So we're going ahead and leaking out the coolant from the radiator right now, as well as taking the whole front end apart to get ready to pull the motor out. So if you look here, the bezels are super easy to take out. There's 4 bolts, one at the top, a couple in the corners, right here, down here, and one over here. So the final thing that I need to do before I pull the motor is, you see this tab right here. It's in between cylinder 5 and 6, the back of the motor. I'm gonna have to take that bolt off, which is a 14, so I can drain all the coolant and fluids out of the block before we lift her out off the motor mounts. So we're gonna crack it. You see the fluids are gonna start already coming out. All right, I know we skipped a few things when I was taking the whole 2F apart, but she is just about ready to be pulled out. Everything is loose. The last thing that I'm doing is leaking out the coolant in the back over there out of the block. I went ahead, I'm not gonna pull the whole entire exhaust. I went ahead and pulled the exhaust bolts. So there's not too many of them. Put that all aside, but you can see it moves. And then as well as took the motor mounts out, so we'll be able to lift it forward and out. The bell housing bolts that bolts up to the transmission are out. Obviously the radiator and cross member is all out of the truck as well. The grill will just pop right out. It's just there for now. And again, everything I've put to the side, all the brackets, so all that is just kind of pushed to the side. So when we pull the motor and we put her back in, it'll be somewhat easy to put her back in and get her driving up the road again. But that's what we got right now. Off the plastic motors we go. Hey everybody. Kind of seems to me like something's missing, right? That's because yesterday Evan from Classic Motors came over here. We took a cherry picker and pulled the 2F and brought it to his shop. Huge thanks to Evan for coming over yesterday and helping me with that. So moving forward, we are going to be dismantling that whole motor at his machine shop and building it all the way out. So here's the question to everybody. Should we build a performance 2F or just build it back to spec and put it back in this motor? Kind of my thoughts behind that is I could build a performance 2F and put it in my blue fj60, which is my pride and joy 60, and then take my 60 awesome running motor and throw it in this rig. So let me know in the comments below what you think, and if you like these types of videos, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe, like, and possibly share them. See you next time when we're ripping into the motor.